If you've noticed that you're walking less than you used to, or that every step feels a bit heavier, a little slower, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not doing anything wrong. There's a quiet shift that happens in our later years. When the morning walks get shorter, the trips to the mailbox feel longer, and even the grocery store aisles can feel like a marathon. You might chalk it up to aging or arthritis or just being out of shape. But here's something most people don't realize. It's not just about walking less, it's about moving differently. Take Helen, for example. She's 74. For most of her life, Helen was a walker. Not just for exercise, she walked because it brought her peace. She strolled with her husband after dinner. She walked her dog every morning. She even walked to the post office just to see the flowers along the way. But last year, after a mild knee injury and some growing stiffness in her hips, those walks became shorter, and then some days they didn't happen at all. At first, she blamed herself. If only I could push harder, she'd say. I'm just being lazy. But Helen wasn't lazy. She was listening to her body. And what she didn't know at the time was that walking, while beautiful and beneficial, isn't enough to keep our muscles strong, our joints loose, or our balance intact as we age. That realization was the beginning of a whole new path for Helen. And maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of yours too. You see, as we get older, something called sarcopenia starts to take hold. It's a slow, gradual loss of muscle mass. It begins quietly, often in our 40s, and speeds up with each passing decade. By the time you're in your 60s or 70s, you might have lost a significant amount of muscle without even realizing it. Not because you stopped trying, but because your body needs a new kind of effort to hold on to strength. And here's the part that surprises most people. Walking doesn't build muscle the way you think. It's good for the heart, yes, it lifts the spirit, but it doesn't challenge the legs enough to rebuild the strength they're slowly losing. And that's why you can walk every day and still feel weaker, still feel wobbly, still feel like getting out of a chair is more effort than it used to be. The truth is, walking is just one piece of the puzzle if you want to stay strong, steady, and free to move through life on your own terms. There are three kinds of movement your body is craving right now, whether you're 60, 70, or 80. Helen learned this the hard way after a stumble in her kitchen left her shaken. No broken bones, thankfully, but a bruised hip and a dent in her confidence. She didn't feel safe walking outside anymore. She worried about falling. That's when her daughter suggested something new. Not more walking, but strength training, and not the kind you see in gyms with heavy weights or machines, the kind you do at home, quietly, safely, consistently. Helen started small. She began with seated leg lifts, sitting in a sturdy chair and slowly raising each leg one at a time, holding for a few seconds, then lowering it back down. It didn't feel like much at first, but within a week, her thighs burned just a little less when she climbed the stairs. After 2 weeks, she could get up from the couch without using her arms. Then came sit-to-stand practice. That one surprised her. She would sit in her chair and stand up slowly, using as little arm support as possible, then sit back down and repeat, just 5 times in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, 5 before bed. In 3 weeks, she noticed she wasn't dreading the toilet seat. In a month, she was rising from any chair like it was nothing. Strength doesn't roar back all at once. It comes quietly, with repetition and trust. But once it returns, you feel it in everything, in your independence, in your confidence, in the way you move through the world. Helen added resistance bands next, those stretchy loops you can buy for $10 that make your muscles wake up without stressing your joints. She looped one around her ankles and practiced side steps along the hallway. She used another around her arms to strengthen her shoulders. It didn't feel like a workout. It felt like reclaiming something she thought was gone. And then came balance, because what good is strength if you still feel unsteady? Falls are one of the leading causes of injury for older adults. And most falls don't come from carelessness. They come from confidence that's been chipped away, bit by untrained balance. Helen started by standing behind a chair and lifting one leg, holding on to the backrest for support. 10 seconds on one leg, then the other. She'd wobble at first, but every day the wobble got smaller. Then she added heel to toe, walking down her hallway slowly, focusing on each step like walking a tightrope. It was humbling, but it was healing. Balance training doesn't just steady your body, it steadies your mind. It tells your nervous system, I've got this. It turns fear into familiarity. And when you no longer feel scared to move, you move more. And when you move more, everything starts to change. That's the magic of adaptive movement. It doesn't ask for marathons or treadmills. It asks for attention, intention, just a few minutes each day, small actions that send a powerful signal to your body. I'm still here. I still want to move. The third and often overlooked piece is mobility, that subtle daily flexibility that keeps your joints from stiffening, your muscles from freezing, your bones from groaning. Mobility isn't about stretching until you touch your toes. It's about circling your ankles in the morning before you get out of bed, rolling your wrists while waiting for the kettle to boil, gently swinging your arms in rhythm to your breath. Helen now begins her day with ankle rolls and shoulder shrugs. She even joined a local Tai Chi class at the community center. Slow, flowing movements that feel more like dancing than exercising. The first time she went, she felt silly, but the second time she felt grace returning to her step. You don't need to move more, you just need to move better. Movement isn't about going fast or far, it's about preserving your freedom, your dignity, your independence. Even if your walking has slowed down or stopped altogether, your story of movement isn't over. In fact, this could be your most important chapter yet. Helen didn't start this journey expecting a transformation. She didn't wake up one day and decide to become stronger or more flexible. It started with a quiet ache, a hint of stiffness, and a lingering fear she didn't want to name. But little by little, she found a rhythm that worked for her. A few minutes in the morning, a few stretches in the afternoon, a chair exercise while the tea brewed, and somehow those simple minutes started giving her something walking never could: stability, strength, and peace of mind. It's easy to believe that once we stop walking as much, we're surrendering to age, that we're slowing down because we have no other choice. But that's not true. What's really happening is that our bodies are asking us to move differently. They're asking for variety, for nourishment, for patience, and above all, for consistency. You don't need a gym. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't even need to stand if standing hurts. What matters is that you move with purpose. A few leg lifts in the morning, a stretch before lunch, a balancing moment while brushing your teeth. These aren't small things, they're your lifeline. Because here's something that doesn't get said enough. Aging doesn't take your strength all at once. It chips away, slowly, silently, but so does rebuilding it. And that's good news, because it means you don't have to make huge changes to feel a difference. Just small ones, repeated, honored, protected, like little rituals that tell your body, I'm not giving up on you. Helen kept going, not because she felt pressure to get fit, but because movement began to change how she felt inside. Her mood lifted, her appetite improved, her sleep deepened, even her memory sharpened. That's the mind-body connection we often forget about. Movement isn't just for muscles, it's for mental clarity, emotional balance, and a sense of control when the world around you feels unpredictable. There's something profoundly healing about moving in sync with your breath, about stretching your fingers wide and making slow circles with your wrists, about standing with your feet hip-width apart, gently rocking from heel to toe, feeling the ground beneath you, steady and sure. These are not exercises in the traditional sense. They're acts of remembering that your body, no matter how old, is still yours, still responsive, still capable of strength and grace. Helen's mornings changed first. Instead of dreading the day, she looked forward to her small movement ritual. A few minutes to warm her joints, to remind her feet and ankles how to move in harmony, to ease into the rhythm of being alive. Her favorite was the seated twist, sitting tall in her chair, turning gently to one side, then the other. It loosened her spine, it cleared her head. It felt like waking up fully, not just physically, but emotionally too. Her afternoons became calmer. Instead of pushing herself to walk the long block she used to, she walked a shorter one with more awareness. She stopped to breathe, to notice the flowers again. She felt less rushed, less discouraged. Because she'd done her strength and balance work at home, she didn't worry about falling. She walked slower, yes, but taller, with more dignity, with more ease. And her evenings, that's when Helen felt the biggest change. She no longer sank into her recliner with that old familiar fatigue. Her joints didn't throb the way they used to. She didn't need her heating pad as often. And something else shifted too, something inside. She began to feel proud again, not for doing anything dramatic, but for honoring herself in a quiet, meaningful way, for not giving in to the story that aging is just about decline. She was writing a different ending, one filled with presence, purpose, and movement. Now, maybe you're listening to this and thinking, that's lovely for Helen, but I've got arthritis, or my knees are too far gone, or I can't do what I used to. That's okay. You're not supposed to move the way you did at 30. You're supposed to move the way your body asks you to now, with kindness, with curiosity, with a willingness to try. If you can't do standing leg raises, do them seated. If getting on the floor is out of the question, stretch in your chair. If balance feels shaky, hold on to the kitchen counter while you practice. There is no wrong way to move, only the wrong idea that you shouldn't try. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing something every day. Because the real key isn't intensity, it's consistency. Your body responds best not to the once-a-week burst of exercise, but to the gentle, reliable invitation to move, even just a little, every single day. Think of movement as medicine, one you don't need a prescription for, one that has no harmful side effects, one that improves your circulation, lifts your mood, strengthens your heart, and clears your mind. And best of all, it's free, always available, always waiting for you to return. Helen now sees her movement time as sacred, not because it's fancy or impressive, but because it's hers, her way of saying to her body, I still believe in you, her way of answering back when pain knocks, her way of staying connected to life, not from a place of fear, but from a place of choice. You may not be walking as far as you once did. Your steps may be shorter, your pace slower, but that doesn't mean you've lost your strength. It means you're ready to move differently, to train smarter, to listen to the wisdom of your own body and respond with care. So here's the truth no one tells you. Walking less doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're ready to step into a more intentional way of living, a way that honors your body's needs while protecting your independence. And when you move this way on purpose, with patience, something remarkable begins to happen. You don't just get stronger, you begin to feel more alive. And that is a beautiful thing. There's a certain kind of courage it takes to begin again later in life, to move through discomfort instead of avoiding it, to stretch a hand towards strength instead of accepting limitation. And maybe the hardest part of all, to believe that change is still possible, even now. But it is. You can feel it the first time you stand up without groaning, the moment you realized you didn't reach for the armrest, or when you finish your balance practice and feel a strange new lightness in your step. That's not just physical, that's freedom returning. And it's one of the most beautiful things aging can offer, not the fading, but the reclaiming. You might not hear people talk about this very often. The focus is usually on what we lose with age. But what about what we gain? Wisdom, patience, a deeper appreciation for small victories, and the ability to be consistent, not because we have to, but because we've learned that small things done regularly are more powerful than big things done once. It's that consistency that becomes your secret weapon. It's not dramatic, it's not flashy, but it works. It's the reason Helen was able to garden again without worrying about falling. The reason she could reach the top shelf without pain shooting through her shoulder. The reason she could walk into her living room with a quiet pride, knowing her body was supporting her, not holding her back. What starts as a few minutes of strength work turns into stronger legs. Stronger legs mean more confidence. More confidence means less fear. Less fear means you move more. And the more you move, the more you get to participate in the life you love. That's how it grows, like a gentle ripple that becomes a wave, not overnight, but day by day, breath by breath, rep by rep. And here's something important to remember. Your movement doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it shouldn't be. Wobbles are welcome. Shaking is normal. Progress isn't a straight line. It's messy. It's human. And that's okay. Helen still has her off days, days when her knees ache more than usual, or she doesn't feel like doing her full routine. But even on those days, she finds a way to move. She lifts her heels while brushing her teeth. She circles her arms during TV commercials. She takes 2 extra trips up the hallway just to keep her legs familiar with the idea of motion. And when her body is too tired, she rests without guilt because she knows she'll come back to it. She always does. that trust you build with your body, it becomes sacred. It becomes something you carry into every room, every step, every interaction. It changes how you hold yourself, how you speak, how you feel in your own skin. And people notice. They ask what your secret is. They wonder how you still move with such ease, how your posture stayed upright, how you seem more energetic than others your age. And the answer isn't in a pill or a fad or a gym membership. It's in the small daily commitment to move with love, to honor what your body can do today, and to nurture what it might do tomorrow. Maybe no one ever told you that aging could feel this way, that with a few minutes a day, you could reduce your pain, improve your sleep, lift your mood, and protect your balance, that you could laugh more freely, stand more confidently, and trust your steps again. But it can. And it all begins when you stop focusing on how far you walk and start focusing on how well you move. You already have everything you need: a chair, a bit of space, a willingness to begin. You don't need youth to be strong. You don't need perfect joints to feel better. You just need the decision to say, I may be walking less, but I'm not done moving, not by a long shot. Helen says her favorite part of each day now is her 10-minute morning stretch. It sets the tone for everything that follows. She plays soft music, rolls her ankles, rotates her neck, reaches up with open palms, and breathes into her ribs like she's filling a balloon. It's not about burning calories. It's about waking up her body with grace. And in the evenings, she lights a small lamp and does her seated strength exercises, slow leg extensions, gentle core contractions, a few reps of pressing her palms together for shoulder stability. She doesn't count them like she used to. Now she just listens. When her body says enough, she stops. When it says more, she continues. That's wisdom. Right? The woman who once feared walking to the mailbox now moves through her home with ease, not because she walked farther, but because she moves smart. You can do that too. Whether you're 60, 70, or 80, this is not about turning back the clock. It's about owning the chapter you're in and writing it with strength, balance, and dignity. So let this be your invitation, not to chase the past, but to build a future where your body feels like home, where movement brings joy instead of fear, where every stretch, every step, every breath is a quiet rebellion against the idea that aging is only decline. You are not a statistic. You are not a number in a chart. You are a living, breathing, growing human being who deserves to move with ease, confidence, and pride. And whether you walk 1 mile or 1 room, whether you stretch standing or seated, whether you feel strong today or not, you are doing something powerful. You are choosing life, full, vibrant, mobile life. And that choice, it changes everything.